before we start before we finish the Sissy Harrison hearing, obviously the court would have, adjourned because of, we got to 4 o'clock, or there were other cases coming in. So the case is now called again, maybe, call a list Thursday morning now, and, we're back in resuming the trial. And since we ended the trial with a witness testifying, one of the things that you could do, you could be reminding the witness that she's still under oath, and I would do that, or the clerk would do that. Obviously, the case would be called again. You're all coming back in, and again, the only people in the case today are department attorneys, social worker, mom's attorneys, child's attorney, GAL, and hopefully Richard will be coming in as grandmother. So that's all we have left. And then if we have time, we'll do quick closing arguments and be able to talk about the case as a wrap up. I hope that we do, because again, Tuesday morning, attorney Mike Kilkelly will be coming to speak to you. Now, Mike was the attorney that went to the SJC and got the standard changed for the 72-hour hearings. That was in the Ray Robert case. Mike also was the attorney in 2 of the Chins, they used to be Chins cases that I've given you, the Hillary case and the Angela case. Jadita, by the way, who's in the class, is interning for Mike right now. So he'll be coming to speak on what is now called CRA, Children Requiring Assistance. I mistakenly will still be calling it CHINS because it's been known as the CHIN statute for so long. So Mike, what I asked Mike to do is, you guys will have read the statute and the cases. So he'll talk a little bit about the history and then how the statute came through the change, where it's now called Children Requiring Assistance. But I've also asked him to, talk about, well, how was it implemented? Is it still the same old? So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we'll start delinquency. Okay. Any questions about that before we start the hearing?
So what is he? He's a defense attorney for
yes.
Usually for the children.
Mike has represented parents as well.
Parents and children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're back on the record with the care and protection of the Harrison children. So when last we were in the court, the department had, I believe we were in the process actually of cross-examination of Miss Lewis, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. Right. So who were we at? I think, Attorney Mathias, were you doing cross-examination? Or Patricia?
I was just going to where we ended.
I'm sorry?
I think we had concluded, actually.
Had we?
How about if we do this? Maybe have the department do redirect, and that might refresh your memories as to cross-examination questions. And Ms. Lewis, Nadej Lewis as well, if you have any cross-examination questions of this witness after mom's counsel cross-examines, you can do so as well, okay? All right. So either Tim or Ash?
I want to remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to start asking questions?
Well, to refresh the court's memory, I think what would be helpful is if maybe you start with the present. Right,
we'll start questions now from the present.
That would be great. Thank you.
So at the time Sissy was pregnant, what was her relationship status?
With who? With who? Be more specific.
Did she have a boyfriend?
Oh, you mean like, okay. At the time she was pregnant?
Yes.
No. At the time of the pregnancy, they separated.
Her and the
boyfriend.
Father?
Yes.
And how old was the boyfriend? Or the father?
I don't have any information to
17.
how. What was it? Oh yes, 17. Oh yes, at the time. Yeah, at the age of 17, at the age of 15, she became pregnant by a 17-year-old.
But you did know them when they were together, their relationship?
I really don't have information to that.
Can you just speak a little louder?
Oh, I don't have any information to that as far as their relationship.
She knew them all since they were 4.
Who?
Or isn't she a social
Boyfriend?
worker that knew them the whole time since they were 4?
Go off the record for a moment. She probably would not have known the boyfriend. You know, how
Okay,
often
he wasn't around.
How often does she really visit, you know, the client and her family? You know,
I
she
didn't
might
know
have known that, you know,
how
she's
long.
going with this, you know, with this guy, with this kid, and maybe the relationship was abusive, but
That's what
she
I'm
wouldn't
getting at.
directly, you know, that would be very difficult, I think, for you to get in sort of direct evidence of anything to do with that. You might be able to, you know, I don't know, grandma might, you know, observe them together possibly, but I don't think social worker would have to.
So what's, are we
Okay,
back on the
back
record?
on, okay.
What steps did you recommend Sissy to take once she became pregnant?
Oh, once she became pregnant, we placed her into her home. It's a program for parenting, pregnant and parenting young women. It's called the Crittenden Hastings in Brighton.
What's involved with those classes?
It's basically a home that provides services for pregnant young girls, where they're able to not only get the needs that they need for themselves with their pregnancy, but also educational, and of course they're still assigned to workers. So it helps with pregnancy, but also education.
How was Sissy, did she follow through with those programs?
Yes, she actually attended, she did not, after she gave birth, she has not attended the program because she moved into a foster home in Billerica.
Okay. Are those educational programs, the pregnant and parenting young women programs, are they intended to help teach young women to become effective, to have effective parenting skills?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, because it's mainly for young girls who are pregnant, so it's to give them services to understand the role of being a parent and what it means to be a parent and to take care of their child, but also themselves as well.
And did she continue taking the mother development classes after she had the children?
No, she moved into a foster home after that.
Did you recommend Sissy to stop taking those classes? That would help her become a better and a more effective parent?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Stop or start?
To stop.
Well, we wouldn't recommend that, of course not.
Okay, so what you're saying is she stopped attending those classes through her own volition?
Right.
Now you said it was because she had been placed in the foster home. Is there any sort of these programs in the area of Brooklyn for parenting skills for young
Well,
girls?
of course, of course, as DCF, we can also give them referrals to programs in the community that can help with parenting and aftercare and stuff like that. So we definitely recommended her to programs and resources outside of the community. But as far as that actual program, no, she stopped going to that program.
Right, but it wasn't the fact that she was in a foster home that she couldn't take the
Oh,
programs to
no.
continue.
Objection. I move to strike.
Okay.
Leaving the state.
When did you remove the children away from Sissy's custody?
Do you want an actual date? I don't have a date.
Were they living together at all, or did you remove them immediately apart?
They were placed, after the twins were born, they were placed in a foster home, yes.
So they didn't live together at all?
No.
What was the reason for the removal?
because Sissy then began to display destructive behavior, depression. She started really going downhill from there, and we thought it was the best interest of the 2 twin babies to put them in foster care.
You said she became destructive. Can you please elaborate?
Okay. Her aggression, her depression, it then became, it manifested in a way that would affect not only her but the kids in terms of her placement in the foster care. She was oppositional, she didn't want to follow rules.
I object to this.
Are you moving to strike the answer?
I object to this whole line. I move to strike this, Your Honor.
Okay, what's the
basis is, first of all, the witness has not been identified as an expert in the impact of our client's conduct on the children in the future.
You can't speak,
Your Honor.
Lewis. You're a witness. I'll hear from the department.
We haven't established her as an expert. We're just asking for her personal observations to what DCF, what actions, what legal steps DCF took in the removal process.
But counsel, I think hold on a second. Your question was,
what was the reason for the removal?
What was the reason for the removal? And from what I understand is that Sissy gives birth in the hospital, children are immediately then, placed. Sissy is then immediately placed in foster home in Billerica. So the answer doesn't seem responsive to the question that you're asking.
Okay, I'll ask
yes,
the question.
and I've heard this witness testify about Sissy's behavior, which I agree with you that she does have direct knowledge about this. But again, her question, her answer is not responsive to your question. It wasn't her behavior that prompted you to place the children. A child needed to be placed herself in a fight. You know what I'm saying? In this foster home in Billerica, the children needed to be placed as well. So it wasn't directly because of her behavior at that time.
Am I allowed to ask the question again?
To rephrase or, okay, go ahead.
Have any of these factors that you mentioned, have they improved since removal?
No.
Can you please describe Sissy's mental state?
After she was placed in the foster home and her children was removed, Sissy displayed so many signs of depression. Understandably so, because she experienced a lot of loss. Not only from
Object, just say move to strike. Objection, move to strike.
Your Honor.
But as a social worker, I would know.
Basis?
What was the question? The basis is it's not responsive to the question.
Yes, it is.
She is being responsive, but there's another
Narrative?
another objection you guys could make. Hasn't this witness already testified to all of this? So what's if she has, because we've heard it before, right? Mm-hmm. We've heard all of this. So what would his objection be?
Well, I thought we were just refreshing the memory of everyone here.
No, we weren't doing that. I wanted to hear new things.
Okay.
So it would have been, Your Honor, this has already been asked and answered,
Okay.
and again, it's time, this is taking up all the what's time. So she's already testified to all of this.
Okay.
So
Did she ever complain to you about thoughts of suicide?
Yes. She has.
Can you please elaborate?
Again, because of what she endured, the loss herself, with her own family and her siblings, as well as her child, she has come to the point where, she's considered suicide.
I understand that. Can you just tell us about the actual complaints that she reported to you?
Her suicidal statements were made after her twins were born in the foster home, but that was pretty much it. She said she never really thought about it before, but at that point in time in her life, she contemplated it.
So it would be safe to say that she was emotionally unstable?
Yeah, she was emotionally unstable.
Objection?
Yes.
She's not qualified to make that statement. She can only report facts.
Speak up.
Now, off the record, you might want to let some of this go because what's the standard? This is the C&P/termination trial, right? What does the department needs to show about this mother that she's what?
Unfit.
Unfit. When?
Currently.
So you guys are asking a lot of questions about
Her past.
Yeah. So why don't you ask this witness, what's she doing now? Where is she? I mean, we already know what she is, but you know what I'm saying. You want to try to impress the court that she can't take these babies now. Okay. So you went through. Let's assume you've got all the history stuff in, which I think that you do. All right. Are there maybe a few more questions you need to now ask her about what she knows of the current situation? Okay.
What contacts did Sissy have with the children once they were removed and placed in the foster home in Quincy?
From the foster home in Quincy.
Like, does she visit them?
Does she visit the children, Miss Lewis?
Yes.
Currently?
Oh, yeah.
How often?
Once a month for an hour.
How do the children react when they see their mother?
I mean, they're babies, so they're babies.
Let me see them.
How old are they?
At this point?
Yes.
Or
at this point. How old are they?
Oh, it's been how many years? Well, the separation happened right after the foster home, so I would say they're still like at least a year or two.
Make it up. You don't.
A year. They're a year.
They're a year old.
They're a year
okay.
old.
All right.
Because, yeah.
Is Sissy employed?
I have no information to that. As of
You
right now.
do. You work with the family. This is the employee.
Oh, I have to make up things. I forgot. Sorry. Yeah, she works at McDonald's part-time. Sorry.
Is she going to school currently at all? Do you approve her?
Yeah, she is going to school. She's going to a vocational school for culinary arts.
And where's she living?
Where does she live? Well, she's still in foster care.
And you testified before she's in Billerica.
Billerica.
Oh, she's still there.
Yep.
And how old is she now?
Sissy is 16 years old.
Does she
17.
Does she
17.
drive?
Does she drive? No, but she does have her permit.
She has a permit.
She has a permit.
You said she works at McDonald's. How long has she been working there?
She started right away. As soon as she was placed in the Billerica house and the kids were taken away from her, she applied for a job to get her life back on track. So I would say maybe a little under a year, maybe 6 or 7 months. No, 6 or 7 months.
Anything else, counsel? Leave some time for cross.
No more questions for now.
Cross-examination by Mother's Council, Children's Council.
Yeah, so you said she is in the vocational school, so they are addressing her learning disabilities or special needs issues.
Yes.
So does Sissy seem to be open to any types of treatments or programs that you're offering to her?
Yes. Because of the hold on. Yes. Yes.
She's our witness, right?
Yeah, she is. I know. Yeah, but you have to tell the truth, so.
Has she failed any programs or service plans that you have put together for her?
Right now?
Right.
Currently, no.
Okay, what exactly is in the plans for her to reunify with her children?
Well, right. Wait, where's this cross? I can only answer yes or no, right?
Well, she asked you that. I was going to go off the record in a moment, but Patricia, you asked an open-ended descriptive
That
kind
calls
of
for
question,
like
and you want to be careful because then it might open up for her to say all of this stuff that Sissy should be doing and isn't.
Okay.
So if you know, you can follow up the way the question you asked before was perfect.
Okay.
And she's pretty much said she's been compliant with, you know.
So is there, does she have access to the, she's made all her visitations with the children. Is there a way for her to get to visit them a little bit more?
Yes.
So the foster family is willing to let her visit?
As well as the agency, we will facilitate visits and make sure that she can get there safely. I mean, not safely, but on time when it's scheduled.
And how are the children doing in their foster home?
They're good. They're doing well.
So what is the time frame that you think she might be reunited with the children?
Well, we don't have that information right now.
Wait a minute, hold on, this is a termination trial. That's not the department's goal. But you want to impress upon the court that the court should not be terminating parental rights. So what kinds of questions could you ask? Lester, do you want? Go ahead.
We are here today.
No.
No, I'm asking a question.
That's a question?
Yes.
You sound like the judge.
I didn't get to the question. Is it fair to say?
Okay, good.
Is it fair to say that the intent of this hearing is to determine whether Sissy Harrison should have the opportunity to raise her children?
That's an open-ended question.
Is it fair to say
You have to
that?
answer that.
Yes. Oh wait, he's crossing me right
Yes,
now? Oh
yes,
yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Is it your position that Sissy Harrison should have her parental rights terminated?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for that. Social work.
My understanding is that would it be fair to say that the department normally proceeds in these matters on the basis of reunification of...
Okay, stop for a second. You want to get her to admit to facts which would create the inference that Sissy's not unfit and it's not in the best interest to terminate parental rights. So what fact, again, she's worked with the family, she knows Sissy, what facts must she admit to that shows that Sissy is not currently unfit?
Would it be fair to say that when Ms. Harrison has her hourly supervised visits with her twin girls, that there's an appearance of bonding and maternal...
Wait, stop again.
No.
That the beginning was great. So instead of the appearance of bonding, you've observed all the visits, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when Sissy sees her children, she hugs and kisses them both immediately, correct?
Yes.
And they laugh and giggle and they're beginning to walk, correct?
Yes.
And you know what I mean? So think of what she would be doing in that hour, because she's a young girl that does, you know, we heard her testify, she loves her children, she talked about them, and you know, she's cared for her sisters before, and just trying to think of some facts.
Would it be fair to say that the relationship between Ms. Harrison and her daughters is a typical happy mother-child relationship?
Yes.
Would you? Is it your observation that during these contact visits, Sissy, Ms. Harrison, demonstrates any parental deficiencies?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. And I believe that now the department can call the GAL or Mom's Council could call grandmother. I don't know who wants to go next, since we've sort of taken things out of order. What are you more comfortable with?
We're not doing CF number 2?
We're not going to, Cassandra covered everything pretty much. So Richard is grandmother, Jeremiah is GAL. So who do you want to do next?
We'll call guardian ad litem.
Oh,
Would you state your full
you're on
name?
your oath, okay?
Okay. Jeremiah Mark McIntosh.
And spell your last name?
MCINTOSH.
How long have you been a lawyer?
10 years.
How long have you been appointed guardian ad litem
For this case?
for this case?
1 year. Yeah, since the children were born, so approximately a year.
Have you done a lot of guardian ad litem cases?
I have
How many?
2 dozen.
And when about were you appointed guardian ad litem in this particular case?
Where? I didn't hear you. Where
When?
about? When?
Or,
Approximately when the twins were born.
who did you interview?
Who did I
What do you
interview?
usually do in the course of your GAL?
Well, the general duties of the GAL, me in particular for this particular case, is obviously get to know Carol and Sandy as much as you can get to know newborn babies. And then you get to know the family involved, the mother, the grandmother. I also observe them in foster parents. And what I'm really trying to do is get a feeling for the babies, how they're being treated, and then also looking at the interaction between the other parties, the grandmother, maternal grandmother, the mother, and basically trying to come up with a opinion-educated guess, I guess you'd call it, on where I think the twins their well-being would best be served. Is that about right?
How many times?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You're doing good. How many times have you met with the family?
Oh, geez. I'd say almost weekly with one of the parties, if not all of them.
Can you tell us who you talked to, who you interviewed with?
Well, I observed the mother, Sissy, with interaction with the babies. I've observed the grandmother's interaction with the baby. I've observed the foster parents' interaction with the babies. As far as interview, I'm not really given an interview to see who's the best parent. That's not really my role. So I don't know what you mean by interview.
What were your observations?
The observations that, with regards to Sissy, the mother, my observations, I really started to get an impression, if not immediately, pretty soon after that, it wasn't quite the healthy mother-daughter relationship in the sense that mothers want their children because they want what's best for the kids. I started to really get a sense of impression that Sissy wanted the kids because it was going to be best for Sissy, not necessarily best for the babies. My impression was, in my opinion, further solidified when Sissy made the comment that she'd kill herself if she didn't have babies. That's just not indicative of somebody with the parental foundation needed to raise the babies. And my concern as the GAL for the twins is they're at the age now where they need stability, and I just don't think Sissy has it right now, and unfortunately I'm not aware of any plan she has in place with the department to get the skills she needs to develop the stable foundation that babies are going to need. And so with no end in sight, so to speak, no plan in place, no end in sight where she might get those skills, I was forced to come to the conclusion that her parental rights need to be terminated so that the twins can be placed with somebody who has that stable foundation.
So what's your recommendation to the court?
That Sissy's parental rights be terminated.
Have you based your opinion on factors such as Sissy's age, employability, school record, and the fact that she has actually 2 twin children, not just one infant child?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at these, there's no really one overarching. Yeah, age is a factor, but it's not the factor. I mean, especially at Sissy's age. I mean, you meet 16-year-olds that come across as 30-year-olds, and 16-year-olds that come across as 6-year-olds, and then 16-year-olds that come across as a 16-year-old. So age is definitely a factor when you think about. I just don't think she has the experience, or you think she's lacking in something. Then you look, well,
so
heck,
let me
she's 16,
just ask
so it
you a
makes sense.
question. So with regard to age, is 16-year-old Sissy a mature 16-year-old, in your opinion? Comparatively speaking, with all the other children that you've worked with.
I'd have to say no, in the sense she's a very sweet girl, but it comes across, her troubled past comes across pretty clearly. When I talked to Sissy, I just didn't get the impression I was talking to a 16-year-old that came from an intact family and had a great upbringing and never really experienced tragedy, and nothing was dysfunctional, and here you have this 16-year-old with a bright future in front of her. It kind of came across that she came from a dysfunctional background to no fault of her own, and didn't necessarily have a bright future in front of her. And again, those are all things you just take into, and I take into account when I look at what's the best thing for the twins.
Do you have any fear that she may follow the abusive pattern of her father and mother?
I didn't get any indication that she would be abusive. It was more, I guess if I had to come up with a word, I'd say neglect. Unintentional.
So you didn't see any anger that Cassandra had spoke about?
I don't recall ever seeing her express anger towards the twins. So let me put it this way. My opinion was not based on a reasonable fear that she would assault the twins. It was more on a lack of fitness.
And how do you feel as though the twins are adapting in their foster family?
My opinion is they're better off where they are now than as if they were to go to Sissy with the mother full time. As far as adapting, they're barely a year old. It's kind of hard for newborn babies to not adapt to wherever they're at. To me, it's more about now they're at the stage where they're going to start talking, they're going to start walking, they're going to start remembering. Now is where the actual adaptiveness will start to come into play, and that's where the stability needs to be in place before that occurs. The true childhood mental development is about to start happening.
So you have no concerns of them being negatively affected from being permanently adopted, separated?
Permanently, no. At this young age, no, I do not. I don't think they'll have any negative impact.
No more questions.
Sir, if I'm hearing you correctly, please correct me if I'm not, you're advising this court to terminate Miss Harrison's parental rights?
Yes.
And forgive me, I know it's been asked, but what is the basis of this now? The basis of your decision?
It's what I feel.
Wait, do you want him to be able to explain all of that over again?
No.
That's not in your client's favor. How about ask some pointed, short questions?
You stated earlier, sir, that when you're talking to Miss Harrison, if I heard you correctly, you had the feeling you were talking to, did you say a 6-year-old?
No, I didn't say that at all. I said it's clear I'm talking to a 16-year-old that came from a dysfunctional background.
And on that basis, you think that our client, will be a dysfunctional parent?
No, that's not what I said. You're twisting my words. And in fact, I said specifically that there's not one thing that formed the basis of my opinion. There's a lot of different factors. Her age and her dysfunctional background being one of them. Another factor being the fact that she does not have a plan in place with the state to get the parenting skills that she needs, and she herself testified that she currently does not have. There's no plan in place for her to acquire that, and no end in sight for when that plan, who has not been created yet, to be fulfilled. So based on current fitness, I don't see it.
Nadesh, you look like you want to ask a question.
Thank you.
Counsel.
You stated that Sissy does not, you don't see her as being abusive to the twins, right?
I've seen no evidence of that.
Okay, so
I can't say that she never will be. I'm just saying I've not witnessed it.
wouldn't you recommend instead for her to have certain programs placed for her and the twins instead of terminating her parental rights?
I would have liked to have seen that a year and 9 months ago when she found out she was pregnant. My fear is she found out she was pregnant, no services were, she didn't obtain the services that she herself says she needs. The twins were born over a year ago. She still has not obtained the skills that she needs. So again, based on, I was asked to find my opinion based on current, not based on future. And based on the absolute lack of progress up to now, I have no choice but to think that's going to be, what's happening now is going to be the same for the foreseeable future, and that is not what's in the best interest of these children. So would I recommend that? 19 months ago. Now, I think it's too late.
Anybody have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just one more question, sir. Would it be fair to say that, in your opinion, if our client were to receive a residence in the McKinley House, or am I saying that incorrectly? The Crittenden Hastings House, where she would be, with her children, a placement with her children where she would be inculcated into parenting technique and pursue career choices under supervision, that would allow you or permit you to come to a different conclusion?
But a lot of what you said is kind of outside the scope of what I'm asked to testify about. My role simply was to get to know the parties involved, specifically the baby, and get to know all the parties involved, and then make a decision on what I feel is in the best interest of the twins. And a lot of what you said sounds like what is my opinion for the best interest of the mother, and unfortunately that's outside the scope of why I'm here. My recommendation to terminate the parental rights is simply because that is the legal step that has to occur before these twins can be adopted and placed in a stable home. It is in no way indicative of saying that Sissy will never be a good parent. It is simply a statement saying, right now, she does not have the foundation to be the parent that these twins need, and terminating her parental rights so somebody can adopt her who has that is in the best interest of these kids.
Your Honor, if I may add one final question.
Yes.
In your experience as a GAL, have you observed the progress of a teen mother like our client and her offspring over a period of time?
When I'm called in as a GAL to represent infants, or newborns in this case, I'm usually not around for the years it takes for somebody in Sissy's situation to go through the plan and the steps and everything you talked about. I don't recall a single case where I was GAL for these kids for years waiting for the mother to become fit. My role has usually occurred, as is in this case, much quicker. And it usually, my role as GAL will end after this. If Sissy's parental rights are terminated, my role as GAL will effectively be done. So because of that, I can very rarely recall ever being a GAL for somebody for 3-4 years when they become the parent that they need to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Nadesh?
Yeah, you have stated that you decided, you asked the court to terminate, you recommend for the court to terminate Sissy's parental right based on the best interest of the children.
Yeah.
But doesn't the statute require we have to consider the fitness of the parent and the health and safety of the children? Are you concerned about the health and their safety? Because you don't mention it.
The children, yes. Well, when I say well-being, that's health and safety.
Yeah, but is there any evidence that their health right now and safety are in a big concern right now, or is it something that
It's not that big of a concern because they're not in custody with the mother. I feel that it would be a concern if they were put in full custody with the mother.
I would ask him, why do you feel like that?
No.
No.
No. Can I ask a few questions? So, one of the questions that I have, and I know you've reviewed the whole case in terms of arriving at your opinion, and you've reviewed Sissy's history, correct? And you are aware of the fact that from when Sissy was probably 4 years old and her sisters were even smaller, she was changing diapers and taking care of them, correct?
Right.
And you've observed, I believe, almost every visitation where Sissy has been, caring for the twin girls and juggling them both, correct?
Right.
And she's been, pretty adequate in terms of at least that hour of visitation when she gets it. Correct?
Yes. It's not. That's the whether the kids are going to be hanging around in dirty diapers wasn't really my concern. It was more that I didn't feel that Sissy had the mental capacity and basically the knowledge, skills, and the abilities to be an appropriate parent.
Now, you've also reviewed the department's service plans
Yes.
in the course of your job as a GL. And you've heard the worker testify, and I'm sure you've talked to the worker as well. Sissy is pretty much compliant with service plans. She
Yes.
has not violated, any of the terms of any of the agreements. I don't know if I have any. Are there any other questions?
I mean, if I was on the other side, I would say, guardian ad litem, can you point to facts that would make you assume that if the children were placed in Sissy's custody, that you would think that she'd be abusive or neglect the children?
I would point to the fact that I question her mental faculties to be a parent based on her statement that she would commit suicide if she didn't get them. That's alarming.
But you are aware of the fact that the juvenile clinic actually examined her recently and found her not suicidal.
Yes, and then she testified and said that that's true, she would do that. She would have, her exact words were she would have no reason to live. I find that alarming. But as far as abusive, my fear is because of Sissy's background, she doesn't have anything in her past to draw upon as an example for her way forward. So she needs to basically start over to figure out how to become a parent from scratch.
Well, aren't you making an assumption based off her past upbringing? And I'm just.
Who are you?
I know.
Go ahead. One more. We need to get the grandmother and finish today.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Clover. So, Mom's counsel is going to call.
Your Honor, I apologize. I was late, but I missed the crosstown bus.
Ms. Carla. So, Ms. Harrison, assume you're under oath already. Okay.
How do you find
Who are you?
I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
I just wanted to see how you
Please state your
thought
name.
Sissy. I'm sorry, Patricia Stillman.
No, tell them. Please state your name and his name.
Oh, please state your name.
Carla Harris,
And you are?
Sissy's grandma.
Thank you for coming.
How old are you?
No, you can't ask an old lady that question. Older, that'd be rude, I would think.
Thank
Anyway. How is Sissy doing?
not so well. I talk to her on a frequent basis, and from everything I hear and hear, it just seems like everybody once again is against her, and I feel really bad. Sissy's a good person. She wants her kids.
And how do you think she would do if she had her children with her?
Oh, let me tell you, she grew up in a bad, bad home, but I'll tell you, like the judge here said, from 4 years old, sometimes I had to come and pick him up for school or walk him to school. I'd walk in the house and the mother would be asleep from the night before. She'd be a little under the weather, if you know what I mean. And Sissy would have the kids dressed. And if it was cold outside, she'd have jackets on them and boots, and she'd make breakfast. And I'm not just talking Cocoa Puffs, but sometimes scrambled eggs and things like that. And she always made sure that the kids had their backpacks and everything. And even Sissy had her stuff all set to go.
So it seemed like she could manage not only herself.
No,
but
no, ask it as a direct question.
Okay. So how could she? How do you think she did with managing the children and herself?
Let's just say she not only took care of her brother and sister, but she took care of her mama too. Oh, sorry. Took care of her sisters, but she took care of her mama too.
So you don't think she'd have an issue with taking care of her children full time?
I think Sissy, as that man,
Yeah. Would she, you could turn that into a direct question.
How do you
Because
think
that
she
was a legal question.
How do you think she would handle having her children full time?
well, like that man next to you said, Sissy's immature, but I don't know too many 16-year-olds that aren't. She has said, and she even said it to me once before, that, you know, she'd want to kill herself if she didn't have the babies. But I asked her therapist, and the therapist said that it's very common that girls, you know, especially teenage girls, might say that. It doesn't mean it's true. But I think Sissy needs help from the state. She can't get there by herself. And she's 16, you know, she can't ask for therapy or ask for job programs or ask for parenting classes. Someone's got to help her, and no one ever has.
Ms. Harrison, what help, if any, could you give your grandchild?
Well, if I was there, I could watch the babies so that she'd be able to go to the classes that she needs to go to.
And do you feel like you're capable of watching two?
I know what you're probably getting at. When I had to go to the hospital when she went to jail, but that was mainly because of the trial of my daughter. My daughter's a mess. We don't even talk anymore.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Mrs. Harrison, thank you for...
And you are?
I'm Lester Carl Nathathias, co-counsel for Ms. Harrison, your granddaughter.
Okay.
And thank you so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
With all that, I lost my train of thought. Does that ever happen? You lose your train of thought? I got it. Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. If you were empowered to determine whether your two baby granddaughters would be raised by an adoptive family or by their mother, what decision would you come to?
I don't think there's any question that any child should be raised by their mother if she's capable.
And you would provide our client.
Could you provide?
And could you provide this court with your assurance that, to the extent possible, you will be there for care, support, and encouragement for the success of both your daughter and your grandchildren?
I already have provided, and I can only say, every time she's been taken from my home,
it wasn't because there was a question about whether I was a good grandmother, or really if Sissy was a good mom or daughter or granddaughter. You know, she got taken away once when I was sick because her mother got arrested, and I wanted her back, and I got her back for a while. She wasn't doing that great in school, and they took her away again. I don't know if that was right. And then when she got pregnant, they took them away again. She's never been a bad mother. She's never been a bad granddaughter.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Harrison. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Harrison, before, I know that the department is also going to be asking me questions as well, but the judge has a question for you. If you had your druthers, what would your plan be for your now great, I forget, great-grandchildren, whatever, the twin girls?
For you want, like my,
For the
like the babies?
Yeah.
I'd like the babies to be raised by us. She's a 16-year-old girl, my granddaughter, and she's going to have difficulties just because she's 16. It doesn't matter if she got raised in a great home, which she didn't. But that's what I'm there for.
So are you saying that Sissy could move in with you?
Absolutely. She's always had a home.
Hi, Carla. How are you? I'm with the department.
Oh, I know who you're with.
Thank you for coming today. Do you recall any of Sissy's boyfriend around the house?
Sure, I'm a grandma.
Sissy testified that she had her boyfriends hit her. Did you ever see that?
No, I would never allow that in my home.
Why did Sissy have those kids hanging around your house?
Well, like I said, I never saw anything like that, so if they ever did anything like that, they weren't at my house. There's only one boy I know, and that's the one that made her pregnant, and he's been pretty nice, and his mama even said he was going to take the babies, but I think Sissy should raise the children.
You said he's pretty nice, but he hit Sissy.
I've never heard anything about that.
Where is this going, Your Honor?
The department is allowed to ask questions, counsel.
Sorry. I apologize.
Did you ever observe your daughter hit by her boyfriend?
Oh, yes.
Was that in the home you lived? Were you living together?
No, that was when they were living together. That was her and that awful Gary.
And the children witnessed that too, Sissy?
Yeah, unfortunately. I believe that's why they put them with me.
Now you said that Sissy can live with you, and you're going to help her raise the children?
Well, I don't want to talk about my age, but I would like to help her out as much as I can before I go.
It's good that you mentioned your age. There's a bit of a concern. You've already been hospitalized. You're getting kind of old. What kind of guarantees do we have that you're going to be around to help her raise the children?
Well, I have to take
What's the objection?
The objection is
Age discrimination.
the morbidity of the question.
About the tone of this question.
Yeah, the tone is.
So you might be
Argumentative.
It's bad, you know,
Yeah.
because she might be again afraid or on the brink of tears with a question like that. So
She's a great
and
grandmother,
you know, whoever is counsel, when you have either children that you're cross-examining. And in this case, people like, Mrs. Harrison, you have to be careful of the tone of your questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get them to admit to things in a nice way, you know what I'm saying? In
Sure.
a way that,
I don't have time.
So,
I just need to get here.
now, you could bring up her hospitalizations.
That's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
That's where I was going
All right.
with that.
I knew that's what you were trying to do.
It's too hard. I couldn't resist saying it like that.
How many times have you been hospitalized in the last 5 years?
Well, the time that they took the Sissy away from me, that was because I had a problem with my heart. But I just had my last checkup only a month ago, and the doctor said I'm as fit as any 70-year-old lady.
Thank you, but do you know how many times you've been hospitalized in the last 5 years?
Your Honor,
No, that's all right.
he's putting the witness in the grave.
I'm just asking.
He's just asking a question, but if the witness doesn't know the answer to that question.
And that's okay
please
to
move
say,
on.
I don't know.
Would you know, Ms. Harrison, how many times?
3 times.
Okay.
Thank you. Jeez. And how are you doing now?
Clean bill of health.
And you also mentioned that the department almost removed Sissy at another time due to her failure to attend school. While she was under your care, you seemed to have a little bit of problems controlling her at that point.
Well, she was doing good. She had been going to school, but what happened was they put her in a school called McKinley Tech, and there were some girls there that always made fun of Sissy because who she was dating. That was that boy Robert. She just didn't want to go because she was scared. We tried to get in another school, but they would not let her go.
So if she just doesn't like the situation she's in, she won't do what's in her best interest to, well, I got a future?
I have to be honest. I kind of pushed her not to go to that school because I was nervous.
So you actually encouraged her to
I encouraged
not
her.
attend school?
I encouraged her to be safe.
Not attend school?
I encouraged her to be safe.
Any other questions?
Now you had mentioned that you thought she's pretty much been parenting all her life. Do you agree that there's a far difference between making some cereal for a little brother and sister and caring for 2 newborn twins?
Absolutely. And that's why she would be in my home.
Are you at all concerned about her financial support of the children? And she works at McDonald's, barely has passed the 5th grade education.
Oh, no, not at all. Not only would I help her financially, but I know that there are several agencies that would help her out financially. She just has to have custody of her children.
And what is your employment?
What is my
Your financial?
I am on SSI, and I also collect a tidy retirement from the state.
Fixed income for an old lady in hospital. Very good.
Your Honor.
You thought I was going to cry 5 minutes ago.
Can't resist. It's too much fun.
No more questions.
Ms.
Thank you,
Harrison,
Carla.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's, closing arguments, starting with Mom's Council? No, actually, Nadej, Children's Council. No, the mom and department gets last word.
Your Honor, based on the evidence provided, it is not in the best interest of the children, to be removed from Sissy Harrison, because there's no reasonable cause to remove them, and in order for the department to remove the children, they have to meet the reasonable cause standard. So the department has to prove that the children have suffered serious abuse or neglect, or immediate danger of serious abuse or neglect. And immediate removal of the children is necessary to protect the child from serious abuse or neglect. There's no proof that the children had suffered any physical abuse from the mother. So the department has not provided anything at all that will qualify Sissy as an unfit parent. So therefore, it is in the best interest of the children that the children will remain with their mother.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Either or both of Mother's Council?
I'll start and then
Okay.
my co-counsel. I agree with my sister that nothing has been proved. The children were removed from Sissy, their mother, upon birth, and she hasn't been given an opportunity to really care for them. Her grandmother has said that she would be happy to have them live with her, so there's some support. She has to have state agencies, as she suggested, put in place for her, for support, but there's absolutely no evidence that she would be capable of caring for her girls just like she did for her sisters. They suffered no harm.
Thank you, Council.
Well, first of all, thank you, Madam, for testifying here today. So, just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, it's your... Is it you?
This is your closing argument to the court. You should be looking at me, first of all.
I thought we were...
This is your closing argument, counsel.
Oh.
Has the department met its burden? You know, if you want to summarize any of the evidence, etc.
Okay.
That's all right.
Your Honor, thank you very much. We would like our client to maintain her parental rights. We see no
I know that.
we see no legal basis for terminating her rights. We acknowledge our client's need for guidance and help through the process, as any 16-year-old needs help navigating the complexities of our society, particularly as a young mother. We would like every effort in the court's decision to find for the reunification of this family and for the maintenance of the parent-child bond. And we pray that our client's parental rights will not be terminated.
Thank you. Thank you, Department.
So we ask the court to determine whether the best interest of the child will be served by granting our petition for adoption without requiring consent of Sissy. We ask the court to consider the current inability, incapacity, unfitness of Sissy Harrison. In making the determination, we ask the court to consider the health and safety of the child as a paramount concern. Please consider the lack of fitness of Sissy Harrison. And we ask you to consider the following factors. Sissy Harrison has not maintained significant and meaningful contacts with the children during their stay in a foster home in Quincy on a regular and consistent basis. She hasn't accepted or productively utilized services intended to correct her unfortunate circumstances. Monthly 1-hour supervised visits for Sissy and her daughters were scheduled, and they don't amount to any meaningful contacts with the children. Sissy, without any excuse, failed to provide proper care or custody for the child, and there is a reasonable expectation that she will not be able to provide proper care within a reasonable time considering the age of the children. She received services intended to correct the circumstances, and she was unable to utilize such services on a regular and consistent basis. Because of the lengthy absence of Sissy and her boyfriend, the child's father, their inability to meet the needs of the child has formed a strong positive bond with their substitute caretaker in Quincy. The bond has existed for a substantial portion of their child's life, for the children's life, and forced removal of the children would likely cause some type of psychological harm. So we don't want a repeat of Sissy's unfortunate childhood happen to these twin girls. Over a period of 16 months, Sissy was placed in 7 foster homes. Sissy had difficulty adjusting because she was placed in so many homes and separated from her sisters. This is not going to happen to these little girls. Angela Jackson, the paternal grandmother of the twins, is available for adoption for both of the girls. So we ask the court to look into the ability, capacity, fitness, and readiness to assume parental responsibility of Angela Jackson. Here, there's these little girls have a chance for a new start, and we ask the court to terminate the parental rights of Sissy Harrison.
Thank you, counsel. Does your co-counsel wish to be heard, or?
Pretty much said it all, besides that Sissy's unfit to be a mother at this time. She's undereducated, underemployed, mentally unstable, has not learned the skills necessary to know how to parent, nor has she made any attempt to acquire these skills or to improve her employment opportunities. So it's just in the best interest that her rights be terminated. the
Thank
twins
you.
be free for adoption.
So let me just comment first on the closing arguments, and then we can maybe have a couple of minutes to decide, what you think the court should decide. Now, what you want to be doing at the conclusion of the trial, and of course you don't want to take too much of the judge's time, but if you could comment or summarize some of the testimony that would rise to the inference that, for example, I know what you were doing, and that was great. You were trying to point to the court's attention some of the 14 factors in Chapter 210, Section 3. But what you could have said is, Your Honor, you've heard from the social worker that has worked, Sissy, since she's been a child. While Sissy has attempted to, and she's been cooperative with the department, but because of her, upbringing and mental blah, 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 she's just not able to blah, blah, blah. But you want, again, to
Pull from the testimony.
To pull from the testimony. I mean, those of you, you all remember Jadida testifying as Sissy. I thought she was a great witness, in spite of the fact that the GAL was saying how immature she was and so forth. And on paper, it looks like, that she would be. But she came across really good. So if you were mom's counsel, you would be saying, you've heard from 16-year-old Sissy, and she really, she has a job, she cares for her children, she has a plan, she's willing to work with the department, blah, blah, blah. All of that, Your Honor, all of that evidence, does not amount to current event. So if your mom's and or children's counsel, but those are those are the tools that you want to bring to the table when you're doing a closing argument. And of course, you still then fall on the burden. If you're, again, mothers and children's counsel, Your Honor, the department failed to prove by clear and convincing evidence, because this is the trial, that Sissy Harrison is currently unfit, blah, blah, blah. And the department, again, is the same and the opposite. So pretty good. Now, what do you think about this case? Sad all around, because the fact that, okay, let me just start all over again. In terms of where Sissy is at, unfortunately, she's at this stage in her life largely in part to what the department has done to her.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the sad.
And that's really so sad. But what should the court do, at least in the care and protection piece of the trial? Is there clear and convincing evidence from the little that we've heard in, maybe 2 hours worth of trial, that she's currently unfit? Richard?
I think for the care and protection portion, you can argue that she definitely needs help and she may currently not be unfit. But I think
She may currently be unfit, you're saying?
unfit, yeah.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I think one of the things that I would argue, especially as far as the adoption portion would be, is that everyone keeps saying, well, she might not be unfit right now. Well, the whole thing is, with the services, we may get her to the point, and if we get her to the point after the adoption, well, she has no rights anyways.
Right.
So this is the
That's
point
the
where
point.
we want to try to help her.
Okay. Sandra, what do you have to say?
I agree 100% with that. So I would even try to ask the court for more time, if that's possible, that she,
Well, don't forget, under Section 26 of the dispositional part of the statute, I can adjudicate the children in need of care and protection, but still look to the department for a reunification plan.
Okay.
So I could give the department, custody now, but that doesn't mean she's going to lose parental, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah,
she-
that's the way I could do it, if that's what you're looking for.
Then I would look to do that, because she's, I mean, when you just add everything, and when you take everything into consideration, she's 16. I mean, and like I said,
And
I
that's
tried
why
to
I
testify
asked-
to the fact
Right.
that
Remember Jeremiah?
she's working.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but Jeremiah, when I asked you, and I threw in deliberately, was it her age, and what else did I say to
Right.
you? I forgot when I asked you that question.
Education, work experience.
Mm-hmm. Her maturity of age.
Yeah,
So oh no, and the fact that it's twins as well.
Yeah.
So it's tough in terms of you can't just. And now where is she now? She's in a foster home in Quincy. So there can't be an immediate, even if the department hasn't met its burden, there can't be an immediate reunification. But how do you get to that point? Well, so I saw some other hands up before. Lester?
In reading section 26, I have to say that the children should not remain with the mother at this point.
I would disagree.
That that the evidence shows that she's currently unfit.
You know, unfit.
What does unfitness mean in terms now that you guys have read, you know, the case law and the statutes, etc.? What makes Sissy unfit if that's the case?
She can't provide a stable upbringing for the children at this point in her life.
Is that
She's
unfitness?
unstable.
Is that unfitness? Is that unfitness?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The state needs to
Maybe.
get
In and of
services.
itself, by itself, no. But remember what the case law says.
I mean, despite what I said, the kids are one. I mean, how many of us can think back and remember memories from when we were 2? You know, so I would think the best thing would keep custody, not terminate her parental rights, but keep custody with the department for now while she pursues her plan with the idea of reunification.
It sounds like she's got a stable job though, so she can manage the financial, responsibility of the financial affairs appropriately for the children. So there are factors that show.
Yeah, what we have to be careful about is that the court doesn't find her unfit because she's 16 years old.
Right, and I want to get away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you think of it, what besides, now don't forget that grandmother was a wonderful witness up until the end, I mean, if at all, the court was swayed by the department's witness. Now I've heard that grandmother is ready, willing, and able to offer her home, and she's only 70. Come on, I'm almost there.
You just circle in the drain.
So
I mean, you touched on it earlier too, in the sense that the situation she's in right now has nothing to do with her own making. Granted, the department only got involved after her parents, so she can't fault the department for the very beginning. But everything after, when the department got a hold of her, I mean, they've just screwed this girl 6 ways from Sunday.
Her sister's away from her.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, it's like they have screwed her 6 ways from Sunday. Now it's the time for the department to do everything they can to make her happy, because they haven't for 16 years. I think they owe it to her. And it's not a reason, I don't think, because the kids are 1, I think there is some time in there before their mental faculties, despite what I said, are screwed.
Plus she is limited educational background. So for her to say, look, I'd kill myself if I don't have my kids, she's trying to express to anybody who would listen that look, these kids are my life. I am going to be devoted to them. They are a part of me, and we can make it together. So she was trying to express that, and she had an unfortunate choice of words maybe, but she also was limited, and she thought she was being very clear, if any other mother heard that, they would understand exactly where she was coming from, was her intent.
I mean, given a strict timeline, we're going to put this plan in place, and you've got 1 year.
But she wasn't getting the help. All these things should have been.
That's right.
Where she was placed in foster home versus where the kids were was what, an hour and a half in traffic.
Yeah.
They were in once a month for 1 hour. None of it just seemed to. It didn't seem like they were setting anything up to really work. They were setting it up so they could say we did it, and then say, oh, it didn't work. It wasn't enough.
For failure.
Right.
And all these services should have been in place for her.
Right.
That wasn't something that any 16-year-old would probably be able to do totally on their own.
Right.
Somebody would have to step in and help them, whether it was a mentor or somebody in society or the grandmother or whatever. So.
And Richard, as grandmother testified something about the children want to be with their mom. You said something about the bio mom, and think back to the case law as well. The preference is the case law as well as the regulation. No matter what, that's the preference.
Right.
Again, granted that there may be situations where the state as parents patriae has to step in because of the health and welfare and all of that. But
I think a big thing too is the whole thing with the suicide comment. Right. If Sissy had made the comment, I'd kill someone if they try to take my kids, it doesn't mean we're going to charge with murder or with suspect.
Right.
It's a comment when you're angry or when you're upset.
Right.
Or devoted to those kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And there wasn't any pattern of like neglect or misconduct with the children. She didn't even have a chance.
Well, she didn't have a chance, but remember that there's also case law that, you can't wait for the neglect or abuse to happen. So you can look at, the past history and, all of
You as the judge, you can rely on that pattern to see what, current fitness would be.
Yes, I mean, today, her current fitness, to determine her current fitness, you're also taking into account Sissy's background, right? Sissy's educational background, her family upbringing, all of that, her school. And that's why we heard ad infinitum, Cassandra did the best she could, all about Sissy. Where some of it, at first, sometimes looked like it was irrelevant, but it really was relevant to her fitness. All right, good. So inspections on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.